Hello, spooky soulmates. Kayla and I hope you're having a great week. This is our second time beginning this episode because I wasn't happy with the first one, okay? You know what? We're not perfect.
You never are happy with the first take.
I feel like there has to be like a run through and then, you know, the real deal.
Yeah, I feel like on the days that we actually try to like one shot it,
yeah,
halfway through we're like, it feels flat. Like we just have to get goofy first or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well. Kayla, how was your week?
Well, I'm finally getting over a 2-week cold that turned into bronchitis. So I may still sound a little weird. I may have like a coughing fit. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm feeling better. And now that I'm feeling better, of course, my husband is not. So
yeah. Well, the same kind of a thing. I pulled out my neck on Tuesday morning by doing a very rigorous stretch. I literally just woke up in the morning, stretched, and pulled my neck out so bad that it was spasming all day long, and I couldn't turn my head at all to the left and had to turn instead my entire body. So anyway, it's almost better, and then my husband pulled out his back yesterday. So, you know.
Aging. Such a great thing, isn't it?
We're so old.
You make me so excited to turn 30 next year.
Yeah, you know, the youth just flies out the door and you just start having, you know, body problems like pulling muscles.
My back.
Okay. Anyway, let's keep it PG here. Why don't we just say where you can find us? Do you want to throw that out there? Or would you like me to?
You can find us on Facebook, The Good Luck Sleeping Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Good Luck Sleeping Podcast. Twitter is @GL Sleeping. And if you have, and we desperately need these, listener stories, because we really want to do another episode.
Yes, please.
You can send them to goodlucksleepingpodcast@gmail.com, and they'll be featured in our next listener stories episode. And then our website is goodlucksleeping.libsyn.com. And we're also on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Stitcher.
Yes.
Stitcher.
Or Stitcher. I don't know if we're on Stitcher, but we're definitely on Stitcher. So, this week was also supposed to be a surprise to each other, but like kind of a less creepy surprise, but still intriguing.
But Rachel's husband ruined that. Shout out to Ryan.
So it is no longer a surprise.
Did you ever tell him?
Yeah.
Okay.
I sent him a text right afterwards with a screenshot of our conversation and saying WTF at the bottom. What did you do?
So the way that we've kept these secrets from each other is we both message Ryan what we're going to talk about that week. And he just says, yes, you're talking about the same thing, or no, which so far we haven't talked about the same thing.
Yeah.
And so this week I was like, hey, I'm doing this. Is Rachel doing this? And he goes, no, she's doing this. So you should be good.
I was like, oh my gosh.
It's okay. He threw out his back. It's okay.
Whatever.
It wasn't all there.
It was before then. So
it's okay. He's in his 30s, you know.
Mid-30s.
Mid-30s. The memory's going.
Sure is. For me too, man. All right. Well, Kayla's going to start us off, and she is doing a drum roll, please.
Drum roll?
Shut up.
I love conspiracy theory topics, so I chose the Mandela Effect. Before we dive in, I want Rachel to take a Mandela Effect quiz, because I actually went through at the end and listed all the ones that I thought were like, excuse me, you know?
Uh-huh.
So I want to see, before we talk about it, before there's any bias, which ones you believe or don't believe. Okay, so if you'll pull up this quiz, I'm going to basically tell them what it says, and then you can tell them which one you're picking, okay? All right, so the first one is the Looney Tunes logo. Which one is correct? Is it Looney Tunes with Toons, or is it Looney Tunes Tunes?
Too.
Okay, click it.
I was wrong. Cool. All right.
So going on to the next one. Which is correct? Is it Coca-Cola with a hyphen, or is it Coca-Cola without a hyphen?
I think it's with a hyphen. Oh, I was right.
All right.
Okay.
I don't feel like the hyphen's there anymore, though. I think I'm thinking too hard about this.
I don't know.
Okay, so the next one is Jcpenney. Is it Jcpenney Penny, or is it Jcpenney Penney?
Penney. I was right.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay.
By the way, you get no prize for this.
I'm really excited about that. Okay.
Okay, so this one, which is correct? Febreze with 2 E's or Febreze with 1 that looks like it would be pronounced Febreze?
Febreze. I was right. I buy a lot of Febreze.
All right, which is correct? Fruit Loops with 2 O's for the fruit, or Fruit Loops properly spelled fruit?
2 O's. I was right. Okay.
All right. This is the big one, which is correct. The Berenstein Bears or the Berenstein Bears?
I want to say it's the Steen Bears, but I feel like it's trying to trick me. So I'm going to say Stain. I was right.
But which would you remember?
Steen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll get more to that later.
Okay.
Which is correct? Oscar Mayer, Meyer, or Oscar Mayer, Mayer?
My baloney has a first name. It's O-S-C-A-R. My baloney has a last name. It's M-E-Y-E-R. M-E-Y? M-E-Y. I was wrong.
That's crazy. They even had to sing a dang song spelling it. And we remember it differently.
Yep.
Okay. Which is correct? Sex and the City? Or Sex in the City?
I did not watch the show, but
Me
I think
either.
it is And the City. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Which is the real Monopoly man? Does he have a monocle or does he not?
He absolutely has a monocle, and I'm wrong.
Right?
Oh.
That was my mind blowing.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll explain my theory on that when we get to it. Okay, which is correct? Chick with a CK or Chick-fil-A with just a C? Sorry, that was both Chick-fil-A. One has a K after the C.
Shoot, man. Well, I don't know. They have such mediocre chicken. I hardly ever go there.
Shut your mouth.
I'm going to say CK. Oh, yep. Okay. Good.
Yeah, I always felt like that one was true. Okay, which is correct? Kit Kat with a hyphen or just Kit Kat?
Just Kit Kat. Yes.
Yas,
Yes, queen.
All right, which is the actual Pikachu? Does Pikachu have an entirely yellow tail, or is there a black band at the end of it?
I think there's not a black band, but I don't know. Yeah, I was right. I don't know much about Pokemon.
That reminds me of that meme that I saw. It's a Pikachu costume, but the tail is like attached to a butt plug.
oh.
And the person was like, how do you attach the tail? Oh, I think they were trying to sell it in a yard sale group. And they're like, I could never figure out how to attach the tail.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so that's the end. How many did you get?
I got 9 out of 12. Okay.
So I think it was if you get 10 out of 12. Hold on. But basically, you fell for the Mandela Effect too.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that.
Let's talk about it.
Copy Good Mythical Morning for a second here. Okay, so what is the Mandela Effect? The Mandela Effect was first introduced in 2009, and it was dubbed so by a Fiona Broom, who noticed after it was announced that Nelson Mandela was not in fact dead in the 1980s like a lot of people remembered. A lot of people seem to recall things that used to be one way when in reality they were not. Okay. So she kind of made a web page, MandelaEffect.com, I think is what it is, explaining the phenomenon. And I think she's a firm believer that it's more than just a bunch of people having a brain fart at the same time.
Okay.
So Mandela effects are usually just trivial recollections of things that a bunch of people remember differently, such as celebrity deaths, misspellings, even geographical locations.
Okay.
Like some people forgot where Russia was.
I mean, we can't really laugh at that because I'm really horrible at geography. Okay.
I know. Quotations. So like, for instance, Luke, I am your father. But it wasn't that. And then imagery like cartoons. So like the Looney Tune logo, the Chick-fil-A logo, all that jazz.
Yeah.
And all that jazz. I heard that on the radio the other day. I was like, now I know where that's from.
Well, it's from Chicago.
Yes, I know.
Thank
you
for
pointing that out.
No problem. Okay.
The memory is a fallible thing. It doesn't play back like a recording that always stays the same. It builds off of memories and pieces things together. Sometimes it pulls in bits that we have imagined or even untrue. So this can actually, it sounds kind of harmless until you think about like witnesses taking the stand in like criminal cases and saying something happened, you know, I was raped or whatever. And they remember this specific thing, but it didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
So it can be very dangerous. On debunkingmandelaeffects.com, there was a guy that kind of explained some different factors that can influence your memories. So there's the misinformation effect. Someone says that something was different and it causes you to question what you remember. So say you have this memory as a child that you had bright green walls in your room, and you grow up thinking your whole life you had these bright green walls in your room. And then you get to talking to your mom about it when you're like in college, and you're like, man, I miss my bright green walls that I had as a kid. And your mom goes, you never had bright green walls. You had blue walls.
Yeah.
That would just make you go, what?
Yeah.
You know?
Blow your mind.
Yeah. So it can change what you think happened. Confirmation bias. So that's for people who they seek answers in a certain way that they will only accept the truths that they want to be true. So the Berenstein Bears thing, a lot of us are like, excuse me. No, there's no way it was Berenstein. It's Berenstein.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll never accept anything different.
Well,
So
just like everybody thinking that they'd seen that movie Sinbad with...
yes, with...
Dang it.
Well, it was Sinbad. He played
with
a genie.
Sinbad?
Yeah.
Was
he played a genie.
Yeah.
But what actually happened was Shaquille O'Neal played a genie and people got it confused.
Right.
Yeah.
But I could have sworn, like, going back into my childhood, that was a movie that I'd seen with him playing a genie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know what you mean because I don't think I was around then. But
Shut up, Jill.
okay, so then there's misattribution of memory. When info is retained, but the source is forgotten. Something may seem familiar to us, but we can't quite place it. So we'll search for a source, possibly attributing it to an incorrect one. Maybe you think that your grandmother read you a certain book when you were a child, but you actually heard about it through a book sale later in your years. And so you have this memory of your grandmother reading it to you, but it never actually happened.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I guess.
I could tell you weren't confident about that when you were saying it.
Okay.
But I know that does make sense.
Okay. So cryptomnesia is the imagination is mistaken for a memory because there is no subjective experience of it being a memory.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Smarter people will understand that one than me. So then there's misconceptions, which we all know what a misconception is.
Yeah.
Facts remain the same, but they can be revealed to be untrue as science progresses because we understand more of the world.
Right.
So as we learn more and more things, we have to accept that things could change. And a lot of people don't like that. So they hold on to the misconception. See, I know what some of this is.
Yeah.
Okay, then there's false memory. This is less likely to be a Mandela effect. This is more like something that would happen in a case, like a criminal case, when people think that they have this memory that they don't actually have. It requires trauma. So that definitely doesn't explain why I remember Berenstein Bears, because I didn't have really any trauma growing up, thank God.
Yeah.
But basically the person remembers something that didn't actually happen. And then there's cognitive dissonance. It can be the mental stress or discomfort experienced by an individual who is confronted by new information that conflicts with existing beliefs, ideas, or values. So like seeing Berenstein Bears just really stresses you the heck out and you cannot console it inside yourself to be like, no. So you have cognitive dissonance about it. Okay. And then the last one, which they often very strongly relate to the Mandela effect, is confabulation. And it sounds like it would be great, but it's not. It's people who insist they recall something differently without the intent to deceive, but are unwilling to accept that they may be wrong. So all these people that think they're absolute experts on things that happened in the past, and they're like absolutely unwilling to change their minds about it. Yeah. So then like this big group of people comes together and they're just like pumping each other up. Right. So that's just trying to explain away the Mandela effect and how it could be happening. Okay. If we want to get a little crazy, which I don't think it's that crazy, but some people might. I had somebody on Facebook tell me to put on a tinfoil hat and sit down the other day. So I sent a gif of putting a tinfoil hat on and I kept on with my life. But this is the time travel theory. Okay. Okay. So the theory is that you might have gone forward in time a day, a year, or another short leap that wouldn't seem obviously out of sync with present time. Let's say that's what happened to those of us who remembered Nelson Mandela dying before 2013. Now, I wasn't around in the 80s, so I don't remember Nelson Mandela dying. I mean, I was 0 to 5. So yeah, you probably don't remember it either.
I don't remember it either.
But there are lots of people who said that Nelson Mandela died in like 1988 or something like that. And apparently he was like, somebody said in 2009, like a status update on him, and everybody's like, wait, what? He's dead. What are you talking about?
Dude, you mean the zombie?
Yeah. And then 4 years later, he actually did die. The same thing happened with Billy Graham, by the way. Everybody thought he had died.
Uh-huh.
And then in 2016, something came up about like he was sick, and they're like, what?
Well, yeah, he's sick. I mean,
he's been gone a while.
He's in the ground, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the theory is maybe staring at the TV back in 1988 or whatever it was, those people slid forward to 2013 and saw Mandela's funeral on TV.
Whoa.
A blink, perhaps literally later, we were whisked back to 1988 and went out to the kitchen for a snack from the fridge. In our minds, Mandela had died. We felt sad, but knew his health had been shaky after a hunger strike in prison. After that, each of us got caught up in school or work or other daily activities. We didn't think about the funeral until one day, Nelson... Why can't I
You really want to call him Nancy?
Nelson Mandela was on the TV, and he was not dead.
Huh.
So that theory kind of ties in with something called quantum entanglement. I've talked about it before. I think it might have been the Nessie episode. No, you did Nessie. What was it?
I did Nessie, and you wholeheartedly did not believe in.
I believed in the wormhole theory.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did. Okay, there was one episode I did. I talked about it before. Anyway, so Einstein even acknowledged that quantum entanglement was a thing. He hated it, though. He called it a spooky action at a distance and defined it as two particles behaving as one no matter how far apart they are. So, I do have an example of this one. Okay, so entanglement is a phenomenon where two quantum particles are linked despite being at separate points in space. Now, I got this article off of higgypop.com. Sounds real official.
All right.
This scientist, Johannes Hansteiner, explains, I always imagine if like a pair of dices that you split the dices in theory an infinite distance. And if you roll one dice, the second dice will show immediately the same side.
Okay.
They're somehow locked together.
Okay.
Okay. Johannes' team have been able to further prove that entanglement exists. This is a real thing. No one yet knows exactly how it works, and that is the knowledge that might be required in order to exploit this principle to make a time machine.
Huh.
So, they know that this crap exists. Like, you can literally manipulate something to change in different points of time, the same thing,
yeah.
You know? So that's crazy to me that it's a possibility that maybe people did shift forward in time and we just didn't understand it yet.
How fascinating. I mean, I think we want to cover that eventually, like a whole episode on time travel, because that is just so intriguing.
Well, and now that we're getting further along, and like we talked about in our Aliens and Area 51 episode, we talked about the topics that the government actually is exploring and has teams dedicated to.
That's right. One of those was it.
Yeah,
time travel was in there.
So we know this isn't all mumbo jumbo sci-fi crap.
Right.
You know, like it's possible.
Yeah. You know what I love about our podcast is like we're not afraid to feel like, I feel like other people like, you know, we're going to talk about time travel. You know what I mean? And like they're a little embarrassed about it. Like with us, we
put our tinfoil hats and we sit down and we go to work.
Time travel. Let's figure out how this could possibly happen. You know, like I never feel embarrassed about the things that we cover.
No.
I just feel excited about them because, you know, the possibilities of all of these mysterious things out there, you know, being out there and being real is just so thrilling.
Yes.
So,
well, and I think part of what we've gone through is we've had those flops, so to speak, that we still presented where, you know, we thought we'd come across this great information and then it kind of fell through. Yeah. But we still presented it because we wanted to be completely honest. And then we've had these amazing moments where we took on like a huge topic that like nobody would believe was real and then found the information, you know?
Right.
And so I think that always encourages me because I'm like, if this exists and this is real, then there's no way that that's not, you know,
then the possibilities could be endless. Yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
So I'm going to talk about the Mandela effects that I remember.
Okay.
And if there's any that I think I could explain away, I'll try.
Okay.
Now, the Berenstein Bears is probably the biggest Mandela effect besides the Nelson Mandela death himself. Now, as I already said, I wasn't around for that. The Berenstein Bears, however, I read those books.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of them.
I think Gabe, my son, has one like up in his room right now.
I know, but it's almost like they changed it.
Yeah.
You know, like once it started to skip our generation, they changed the spelling or something. Because I actually saw online, and it could have been doctored. I don't know. There's no way to prove if somebody photoshopped it. But somebody had found a VHS of the Berenstein Bears, and it was spelled with an E, not an A. So unless somebody photoshopped it,
yeah,
like it legit existed. And part of me wonders, the government covers everything up. So like, how do we know that they didn't make this happen and then be like, oh, you guys are crazy, you know?
Right. But I mean, like, why would they?
Because they don't want to admit to like time travel or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So then, I know you buy a lot of Febreze, but I could have sworn back in the day it was Febreze with 2 E's.
It makes more sense.
I know.
Because breeze is spelled with 2 E's.
Well, there was even like, I don't know if it was, I think it was that quiz. Like the picture of the bottle itself, it looked familiar. Like the logo had changed between those two bottles. The way like I think the font was different and all this stuff. And I was just like, I remember that old font.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just me. That's the point of the Mandela Effect. Like there's a bunch of other people.
Right.
Okay, so the Monopoly Man and his monocle.
I could have sworn.
I know. But my thought is, are we getting Mr. Peanut mixed up with the Monopoly Man?
Maybe.
Because he definitely has a monocle.
Maybe.
But I totally remember that too.
Yeah, I have a Monopoly game upstairs. I almost want to like go get it.
And you will be sorely disappointed when there's no monocle.
I am always that person that's like, I think you're wrong. I'm going to Google it. And then I'm wrong 100% of the time. So
now I remember back in the day, there was a hyphen between the Kit Kat. I very strongly remember that.
Interesting.
But you didn't.
I don't think I remember that. But I also don't like Kit Kats.
I loved Kit Kats. And like in my era of growing up, that commercial, break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. It was always, I know, but it was always on the TV after every program, it seemed like. And I could have sworn there was a hyphen there. Huh. Now this one I will go to my grave with. Okay, it is that serious. The Fruit of the Loom logo with the freaking cornucopia behind it. I didn't know what a cornucopia was until I saw Fruit of the Loom. And then they had a cornucopia in the Hunger Games.
Okay.
And that's the only reason I knew what that sucker was because of the Fruit of the Loom underwear, because my dad used to wear that underwear. Sorry, Dad.
Ew.
And
I mean, not you to your dad, just you that you like had to witness. Okay.
I swear, though, there was a freaking cornucopia behind the fruit.
I'm Googling it right now.
It's insane. Huh. And that's why...
wrong, correct. Oh, okay.
Like, that's why I knew what the cornucopia was in Hunger Games. Not that I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Because I read that, you know, in early 2009, 2010. But still, like...
Do you think that they got rid of it because the cornucopia looked a little bit too phallic?
Possibly, but then they wanted to cover it up and say it was never there to begin with.
Right.
Creating a Mandela effect.
Right.
Okay, now this one.
Mm-hmm.
Snow White's Mirror, Mirror on the Wall.
Yeah, I know. I could have sworn it was Mirror, Mirror too.
They swear up and down that in the original, like, Snow White story, not the Disney version, that it did say Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, but Disney's version said Magic Mirror on the Wall.
Yeah.
Only problem is I only ever saw Disney's version.
Right.
So why was I reciting it? Like, I played this shit out as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, I was Snow White. And when we were playing, I always said Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, not Magic Mirror on the Wall.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense because I didn't see anything before Disney's version.
Yeah.
So bullshit. And then the Luke, I Am Your Father, which I talked about earlier. Yeah. I could have sworn up and down that's what it was, but I was never a huge Star Wars fan to begin with.
Yeah.
And my husband, who is, said, no, Kayla, it was I Am Your Father.
So they just don't say Luke?
Yeah.
What is it? Okay.
Yeah. There was this like big thing. Everybody remembered it as Luke, I am your father. And it was so like dramatic that way, you know?
Well, even like it's always played on, you know, more current things now. They always say Luke, I am your father. Like, you know, when they're mimicking it. It's always Luke, I am your father.
But no, it was actually just pause, pause, pause. I am your father. which is just such a letdown. It was better the other way. But I think culture shaped that one for me. You know how like
Sure.
everybody around me was saying it was Luke, I am your father, so I remembered it that way.
Right.
Okay, and then the last one. We are the champions of the world. Everybody sings that part. It doesn't exist.
You're kidding.
But even I sang it. And I saw one theory, and I did not look this up. I should have looked it up. But somebody said that the original Queen album did not have it on there. But then every time he sang it live, for extra impact, he would go, of the world, at the end.
Okay.
So it's like, I didn't look it up to watch him live, but like maybe the world just heard the live version.
Okay.
So somebody fact check that for me and see if that actually happened. But yeah, otherwise, no explanation of where that came from.
Interesting. Wow.
I could swear up and down that I heard him sing that.
Yeah. Maybe we've all listened to the live.
Maybe. Okay, and then the one that I do agree with. Curious George. Everybody said he had a tail.
Yeah.
I know for a fact he didn't because I had a Curious George stuffed animal growing up. He had red overalls and no tail. And my son also has one.
Yeah.
Red overalls, no tail. So.
Isn't he naked? I'm being serious.
Apparently not on all platforms.
Because I watch Curious George with my son literally every day. And I'm pretty sure he's naked. He is naked.
Most of the time, yeah. But like if you buy the doll, sometimes he comes in red overalls that says like Curious George and yellow writing on the front.
I say naked, but he's an animal. So, you know.
In fur.
He's just in fur.
So anyway.
All right.
That's the Mandela Effect.
Okay. Well,
I firmly
learned a few
believe
things.
that we could have time traveled or that the government is covering it up for some reason. You know.
We're going to cover that soon because that's so interesting. Let us know if that's also interesting to you.
I mean,
but we're going to do it anyway.
There will probably be an episode recorded. So.
All right. So my little bit that is not a surprise to Kayla is reincarnation. So
thanks, Ryan.
Yeah. What do you believe in reincarnation? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
Probably not, but you know, I'm always open to learning things just because my natural faith says that there's an afterlife. Mm-hmm. And if you get reincarnated, you're put back in this world. You don't go on to the afterlife. So I don't know how those two would.
So they do link up in what I'm going to explain.
Okay.
I'm excited for you to like kind of understand how you think of it at the end of all of this. Okay. So like you've heard people say like, what did I do in a past life to deserve this? You know? Yeah. And like that little phrase came up a few times during my research. And honestly, I think more people are probably open to this than we think. So the definition of reincarnation is the act of reincarnating, the state of being reincarnated, rebirth in new bodies or forms of life, especially a rebirth of a soul into a new human body.
My favorite theory is that you could just be like an absolute shit person and come back as a fly.
I know. But fully cognate, you know, yes. Like, yeah.
And you're like, I have to land on this pile of poo. This is my karma.
In order to survive, I need to reproduce with a fellow fly and lay my eggs. Yeah.
Oh,
anyway.
But imagine all the conversations you could take in.
That's true. Fly on the wall.
Exactly.
All right. Well, there's a bonus if you're a shit person.
You gotta eat shit, but you get to watch shit.
You can eavesdrop. So scientists are kind of getting on board with the idea of reincarnation, and this came from express.co.uk in an article entitled Revealed, the Scientific Proof That Shows Reincarnation is Real by Sean Martin. So I'm just going to read some excerpts. I find this fascinating. Reincarnation is generally a religious concept that implies that upon a select few's death, their soul, mind, or consciousness is transferred to a newborn. It sounds like the stuff of fantasy, but scientists do believe that it is a feasible concept.
Interesting.
Dr. Ian Stevenson, former professor of psychology at the University of Virginia School of Medicine and former chair of the Department of Psychiatry and Neurology, dedicated the majority of his career to finding the evidence of reincarnation until his death in 2007. So he claims to have found over 3,000 examples of reincarnation during his time, in which he has shared with the scientific community. In a study do you have any birthmarks?
Yeah, actually.
Fascinating. In a study titled Birthmarks and Birth Defects, Corresponding to wounds on deceased persons, Dr. Stevenson used facial recognition to analyze similarities between the claimant and their alleged prior incarnation, while also studying birthmarks. He wrote in his study about 35% of children who claim to remember previous lives have birthmarks and or birth defects that they, or adult informants, attribute to wounds on a person whose life the child remembers. The cases of 210 such children have been investigated. The birthmarks were usually areas of hairless, puckered skin. Some were areas of little or no pigmentation. Others were areas of increased pigmentation. Actually, when my son has like a little spot on his thigh where like no pigment comes, you know, it's not like vitiligo type of a thing, but like just this one little spot, and like
he never had like a scar or anything. 'Cause I know scars can turn white.
Nope, just no pigment there. The birth defects were nearly always of rare types. In cases in which a deceased person was identified, the details of whose life unmistakably matched the child's statements. A close correspondence was nearly always found between the birthmarks and or birth defects on the child and the wounds of the deceased person. Okay, so this is another study with Dr. Stevenson again, and the children made 30 to 40 statements. I think there were about three children that he was investigating, 30 to 40 statements, and each regarding memories that they themselves had not experienced. And through verification, he found that up to 92% of the statements were correct.
And it wasn't like they had heard these memories from somebody like what I talked about.
No, they were things that they couldn't have known.
That's weird.
Yes. The article published on Scientific Exploration, Dr. Stevenson wrote, it was possible in each case to find a family that had lost a member whose life corresponded to the subject's statements. The statements of the subject, taken as a group, were sufficiently specific so that they could not have corresponded to the life of any other person. We believe that we have excluded normal transmission of the correct information to the subjects, and that they obtained the correct information they showed about the concerned deceased person by some paranormal process. So, fascinating.
Creepy.
So I'm going to give you some facts about reincarnation.
Real quick.
Yes.
Today I was scrolling. I'm in part of like a paranormal group on Facebook, and this woman was asking what people believed as far as reincarnation. I was like, oh, because I knew you were doing this.
Uh-huh.
And she said her daughter has like memories of her grandmother, but the grandmother died in like July of 2013, and she got pregnant in August of 2013.
Yeah.
And she's like, she says that she's like got all these memories of her and like things that maybe even the grandmother did, but she never met her.
Okay. See, I mean, honestly,
is there a whole religion that like
Buddhism?
Buddhism? Is it Buddhism or Hinduism?
Or I always get those guys mixed up. One of the isms.
We can Google anything.
Anything. All right, so I'm going to explain some of these a little bit further, but some of them are just, you read it and you understand it. Okay. So some facts. This is, let's see, from thecircle.com. At least 25% of the world's population believes in reincarnation. There's plenty of evidence for reincarnation. There's a good reason why we rarely recall past lives. This is because if we could see our present life in the context of a succession of lives, we would be far less involved in the current life. Our experiences would be less vivid, and our longing for the peace and joy that exists between lives would mean that we would hardly wait to escape. It's kind of like we would just be like, ugh, let's get this over with so I can get back to the fun that was, waiting for me in the spiritual realm. However, as our souls learn and progress, past lives may be easier to recall, and we can exist in the present life with greater acceptance, realizing that there is a purpose. So there's always a purpose to each of your lives that you live. You have to learn different things in order to kind of elevate to the next level.
Well, that's like the whole theory behind that religion is you're like ascending.
Right.
Yeah.
Hypnotherapy can often enable regression to past lives. Karma operates through our lives, and it is a process of cause and effect.
And how you might wind up a fly.
Yes. This one I found really, really cool. And I've heard this a lot in like my research. People tend to reincarnate in soul groups. Many of those you love you will have known before in former lives. Your son may have been your father. Your partner may have been your child. Your best friend may have been a close relative. This may be why sometimes when you meet a person, you quote-unquote click immediately. Some teachings state that we tend to prefer one sex or the other, but that we have all been male and female at different times. It is unlikely that we ever incarnated as animals, for those are on a separate evolutionary path.
Huh. But the Hindus won't kill cows because they firmly believe that you can reincarnate as a cow. So,
are you sure?
Yeah.
Is that why they believe that?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were just sacred for some other reason.
I'm pretty sure that they believe that you can reincarnate as a cow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which, my luck.
No. The ultimate purpose of reincarnation is conscious union with the divine. Our souls were created from the source, it's capital S, as centers of energy, which through many incarnations and learning experiences eventually evolve to the point where we are able to reunite with divinity in full consciousness. Then we will experience fulfillment and bliss. There are many theories and beliefs about reincarnation. The idea that we live over and over again provides an answer to many questions and dilemmas about existence. So, anyway, that's that.
There's so many books that like have that theory that like your soulmate, you reincarnate and you still find each other
right
throughout life. I love that theory.
I do love that theory too.
That's so cute.
So what is the purpose of reincarnation? I kind of hit on it a little bit, but I follow this guy and I followed him for a really long time. His name is Richard Martini, and he is
Is that his real last name?
Yeah.
Or did he like...
No, that's his real last name.
That's crazy.
So he's a filmmaker who started a documentary about the afterlife, and it led him down another rabbit hole altogether. He's written and or directed about 8 theatrical features, but he's also written 4 best-selling books about the afterlife called The Flip Side, It's a Wonderful Afterlife, Volume 1 and 2, and Hacking the Afterlife. His theories are super interesting to me, and he works with a psychologist who also is able to do the hypnotherapy, and so he kind of partners with him, and that's what a lot of his books are written about, is witnessing the hypnotherapy.
You know what would be so fun?
Getting hypnotized?
Yeah. Like if we actually tried that for a podcast.
That would be so fun. I don't know how or who we would talk to, though.
I'm sure we can look up a hypnotherapist.
We should totally do that. So
that would be crazy. I wonder if they would like allow us to record. Well, Rhett and Link, they did the hypnotism thing because they were trying to like hypnotize Rhett into liking cats.
Oh, that's right.
You can hire them to do stuff like this.
That's true. We should totally do it.
When we have money.
Yeah, when we make some money. Maybe. Okay. So Richard says that each one of us has our own curriculum. We head off to university and we have in mind what we want to learn or what we want British. To become. Yeah. Everyone in different terms of the tasks they want to accomplish, and everyone in different terms of what their hopes and dreams of becoming. There's a lot of improvisation along the way, and some change their major halfway through. But ultimately, people eventually graduate. It may take a dozen lifetimes, hundreds of lifetimes, or more. And then what? Well, as one guide put it, after all of my lifetimes, my graduation gift was a young soul that I agreed to watch over in all of their lifetimes. So his job turned out to be a guide. There are guides, teachers, there are councils, members of council, and each member of a council has guides, has their own council, which... Think of it as a giant tree.
No, I get that, but they come back to Earth to be guides. They don't even get to go.
No, they're on the other side.
Then how did he know this?
He talks to them through hypnotherapy.
You had me until that.
So what is the ultimate goal? It depends on the person, and I could offer that some people want to help others, some people want to help counselors, some people want to explore other worlds, some want to create other worlds so quote-unquote we can incarnate there in the future. Some teach classes in energetic transfer, in creation of objects through intent, in the healing light of the universe, and how to channel into one's work.
So you're saying that once they ascend, they can become spirit guides, basically.
Yeah, or all of these other things.
That, like, communicate with mediums. And
right.
Things.
Exactly.
Okay.
Some are musicians teaching other musicians, perhaps on Earth, how to channel their music, yes. The amount of gigs on the flip side is only limited by our imagination to think of them. And over the 50 cases I've filmed, the thousands of cases I've examined, and the most recent cases I've done without hypnosis, people say the wildest things about their guides, counselors, or teachers. So, anyway, find it fascinating.
It is fascinating.
And I'm going to read some stories about reincarnation. So they're really, really interesting. And a lot of them have to do with kids and like knowing things that they probably shouldn't have known. But I did a little thing. Hold on. Kayla, would you like to know how many lifetimes you've lived?
Sure.
Well, I'll start with myself. So this ties back to our numerology episode. Remember when you covered numerology?
Yes, I did. The angel numbers.
Yeah. In the dreams one.
Yeah.
So,
which was just this past Friday.
Yes.
But not when you're hearing this.
Not when you're listening to this. Time warp. So you list your month number, your month day, and your year. Okay.
Your birth month, your birthday, and your birthday.
What did I say?
Month, day, number. And
well, month number is like 5. So like I was born in May, so that's 5. Okay. So I was born, I'll just tell you my birthday, whatever. So Clintons, please don't listen. This is what I'm paranoid about. Okay. So my birthday was May 5th, 1985. So you add all 3 of those numbers. So 1985, you would add 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 5 to get 23. Okay. So my birthday month is 5 and my day is 5. And so at the end, you add 5 plus 5 plus 23. And that equals 33.
Yeah.
But what you need is a single number. So my single number is 3 plus 3, which is 6.
Which was your life path number.
Exactly. So my life path number is 6. And in this lifetime, no. Yes, my life path number is 6, which means I have lived 6 lifetimes. Okay.
So I've only lived 1.
No, you've lived 4.
How did you get 4?
I'll show you.
My life path number was 1.
I think that they numbered it differently with that,
okay.
with your life path number.
Maybe it's different math.
I think it's slightly different math. So anyway, I've lived 6 lifetimes. And in this lifetime, I am considered the compassionate soul. And it is my job in this lifetime to dedicate it to protecting, helping, and serving others. So basically, the nurturing path.
That's exactly what you are.
I know. It was so crazy. So with you, I'm going to show you your math. Hold on.
Mine was a little, the life path was a little different.
Yeah. So
That's
anyway.
interesting. Yours was the same.
I know. That is very interesting. So with Kayla, adding up her birthday, her life path number is 4. Or her number of lives is 4. So I'm a little bit of an older soul.
We already knew that. You're the grandma.
Yes. In this lifetime, you are the practical soul. So it is your job to seek justice, and you really appreciate honesty and reliability.
Yeah, that's right on.
I know. So
do not lie to me.
Yeah. So I'm going to put down, there's a little YouTube video that I watched in order to figure out how to find your lifetimes. And I'll put that in our little group once this airs.
I don't remember any of them, but I do have 2 birthmarks.
Yeah. Fascinating. You want to see?
I know of.
You want to see something crazy?
Are you going to show me a birthmark?
I am.
I hate mine, and one of mine is in a very private location. So,
oh, okay. So I've had a lot of dreams where I've been shot in the leg. Okay.
Okay.
And I have this birthmark.
Are you pulling my leg again? Interesting. That looks like a bruise. Weird. It looks like a bullet hole.
I'm just kidding. That's when they took a skin sample.
Stop doing that.
I had a biopsy there.
Oh my God.
Anyway. Okay. So I'm going to read some stories.
I do have 2. Okay.
I don't think I have any birthmarks. Okay. That one was boring.
I actually have one like right in the middle of my back, my lower back.
Oh.
That one I'll talk about. But the other one, stay private.
So this one is a Chicago fire victim was reincarnated as a 5-year-old boy. At first, Erica Ruhlman laughed off her 5-year-old son Luke's odd tendency to call toys and objects Pam. She was also unconcerned by his comments about having once been a girl. He would say he had black hair when he was a girl, or that he wore the same earrings as his mom when he was a girl. Out of curiosity, Erica eventually asked Luke who Pam was. I was, he said. Well, I used to be, but I died and went up to heaven. I saw God, and then eventually God pushed me back down, and when I woke up, I was a baby and you named me Luke. After pressing him for more details, Luke told his mother that he lived in Chicago, took the train a lot, and died in a fire.
That is literally nightmare fuel if my son ever started saying that.
I know. After mentioning his death, Luke made a hand motion indicating someone jumping out of a window. When Erica punched the information into a search engine, she discovered a news story about a fire in the Paxton Hotel in Chicago. In March of 1993, 19 people died in a fire at the building, and a woman, Pam Robinson, perished when she jumped out a window. Mm-hmm. 2 sisters killed in a car accident were reincarnated as twins. John and Florence Pollock were devastated when their twin daughters, Joanna and Jacqueline, died in a car accident on May 5th, 1957. The following year, they were thrilled to hear that they were expecting, and once again, Florence was carrying twins. The twins, Jillian and Jennifer, were born identical except for Jennifer's birthmarks. She had a birthmark on her waist, similar to the birthmark Jacqueline had, and a birthmark on her forehead that had resembled one of Jacqueline's scars. John and Florence moved away from their old home when their daughters were 3 months old. John and Florence told Jillian and Jennifer very little about their late sisters, but the girls seemed to share Joanna and Jacqueline's memories. They would request old toys that had belonged to the deceased twins, recognized landmarks when traveling to their parents' former home, and were inexplicably terrified of cars. Upon seeing oncoming traffic, they would shriek, "The car is coming to get us!" Luckily, by the age of 5, these frightening memories were almost all faded. The girls went on to live relatively normal adult lives. However, their story is still frequently cited as evidence of reincarnation.
Okay, quick question. You may have said this, but is the birthmark like where they died? Or is it like if they had a birthmark, they might reappear with the same birthmark? Or is it both?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be both.
Because I was like, so what? Did I get stabbed in the kidney? How does that happen in the middle of your back? I don't.
Yeah. So this one has to do with Gandhi. Shanti Devi of Delhi, India, was born in 1926 and barely talked until she was 4 years old. She then began insisting she lived with her husband and son in a town called Mathura, where she had died 10 days after giving birth. Eventually, a teacher in Devi's school asked her former husband's name, and she replied, Pandit Kedarnath Chaub. The teacher identified a man of this name in Mathura and wrote him a letter.
Just call him Panda Chub.
Chub confirmed his wife, Ludji, died during childbirth 9 years prior. When Chub traveled to meet Shanti, he introduced himself using his older brother's name. Shanti immediately caught the bluff and recognized Chub as her husband. She recalled details of Ludji's life, such as Kedarnath's favorite food and how Ludji bathed in a well in their courtyard. She also chastised Chub for remarrying, as he promised Ludji he would not.
Whoa. So she had never seen a photo of this man, never heard of this man, nothing. She just started talking about this man.
Correct.
They got a hold of him, had them meet up, and she was like, yeah, you're my
well, and
husband.
He said, I am my brother. I am your late husband's or quote unquote brother. And she's like, no, you're not. You were my husband. And why did you get married? Because you said you wouldn't.
That's like, okay, I'm not saying she was a nag, but like every man's worst nightmare is like your wife dies and you're like, oh, thank God. And then she comes back and she still recognizes you.
Yeah. And so Gandhi had put together like a committee of 15 people to try and like debunk her, and nobody could.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I think I am going to.
So now when Joe gets annoyed with me, I'm just going to be like, forget haunting you. I'm going to come back as another person and you're going to have to marry me again.
Yeah, right? But then wait a really long time to have to marry me, because that would be a really gross age gap.
Ew. I didn't think about
so maybe not. Okay, I'm going to read 2 more. A grandfather was reincarnated as his own grandson. University of Virginia psychiatrist Jim Tucker, who studies reincarnation professionally, met a boy identified as Sam, who he believes to be the reincarnation of his own grandfather. Until he was 4 years old, Sam had never seen a picture of his grandfather, and after his grandmother's passing, his parents brought out an old photo album. Upon seeing his grandfather's car, he exclaimed, "That's my car." It would be easy to contribute this to an overactive imagination. This is what Sam's Baptist mother did at first, as her religion does not believe in reincarnation. However, she became a believer after she asked Sam if he remembered anything else from his past life. He said that his sister had been turned into a fish by bad men. Sam's mother was astounded. His grandfather's sister had been murdered and her body was dumped in the river. Due to the frightening nature of the story, Sam's parents never told him about his great-aunt's murder.
So was she reincarnated into an animal and that totally like...
No, she went to sleep with the fishies.
Ew.
Kind of mob style, I think.
Okay.
All right, last one. Reincarnated murder victim returned to confront his killer.
Whoa. Going out on a strong note.
When gosh, I'm just going to call him KT.
Okay.
Okay. When KT of Turkey was pregnant with a son in the 1950s, she dreamed a man named Selim Fesli appeared to her with a bloody face. She went on to give birth to a boy, ST. As soon as ST began to talk, he insisted he was the reincarnation of Fesli. He said he lived in a nearby village and had been murdered by a neighbor. At the age of 4, ST walked to Fesli's old village and talked with Fesli's widow. He was able to recount their life together in great detail, and his murder claims were somewhat corroborated. Fesli had been indeed shot by a neighbor, but the neighbor claimed it was a hunting accident. Semi, on the other hand, and ST, insisted that his past self had been killed due to an argument over Fesli's mule grazing in the neighbor's field. ST returned to Fesli's village throughout his life, visiting his widow and adult children. When he encountered his murderer, he would throw stones at him. He did not enact more violent revenge out of concern his neighbor would also be reincarnated.
They would just go through life reincarnating and killing each other.
I know. ST stuck to stone throwing to avoid perpetuating a cycle of murder across multiple lifetimes.
I mean, that's smart.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Like,
and the fact that he stuck to it from a very early age.
I just love
throughout his
that,
whole life.
Every time he saw him, he just chucked a rock at him.
It's kind of like flipping the bird a little bit.
I know. More painful.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah. So, I mean, I believe it.
I don't know that I do, just because of my religious stance in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to make those two mesh, but it is fascinating. And I don't know. I think if I came across somebody that had memories like that, it would be more convincing for me. But I think it's just because I've never met anybody. You know how I am. I'm like
my bullet holes.
Your bullet hole
right there.
Yeah, that was real convincing.
I mean, I definitely think that a lot of things are plausible. We don't know everything. I feel like a lot of times, because I grew up in the same religion, and I think sometimes we're put in a box as to what we're allowed to believe. And I just want to break out of that box and just be completely open to you know what, maybe, it's fascinating to any extent, at least it's just interesting and it's fun to read about and to think hey, maybe in this next life, I'll come back as a man.
I don't know. I kind of just want to go be in heaven and be done with it.
Yeah. But maybe we haven't learned all that we need to learn yet.
I feel like I've learned a lot this life though, and I'm not even 30 yet.
Well, I don't know. It's fun to learn about.
It is fun.
Fun to hear stories about. So
we're fun and funny.
Yeah. So it may not have been the creepiest episode. We needed a break, guys.
We're taking a little breather from creep
from last week, which you'll never hear.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because honestly, I was afraid I would hear something I didn't want to hear if I listened back to it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I mean, these kind of topics you guys like too. So,
yeah. So,
you may not need good luck sleeping.
Well, maybe, you know what? They are not going to sleep because they're going to have so many possibilities and thoughts running through their head. They're going to be running through all the Mandela effects.
The Mandela. Nance Mandela.
Nance. All right, guys. Well, good luck sleeping.
Good luck sleeping.